Yes. Fire, water, and plaque psoriasis. My three favorite structure decks. Okay, wait. That's just personal. You guys don't get to see that. Take two. Yes. Fire, water, structure decks. Crap! Yes. Fire and water structure decks and erectile dysfunction adds. Wait, god damn it! Hello, Internet! My name is Prunk, and today we are talking about Structure Decks Blaze of Destruction and Fury from the Deep. And we are not talking about embarrassing ads, so you guys don't get to know about my personal life. For those who are new, uh, why are you watching this episode specifically? This is not a very good place to start. You should probably start at LOB and maybe a few episodes after, because it's not until I start getting a hand on how the YouTube stuff works and editing, and it gets better over time. So maybe like skip the first 3 episodes, but you should watch one of those instead of this one first. But for those who are my regulars, welcome. This is Fixing Yu-Gi-Oh, where we take game design and hindsight and apply it to all the really, really bad cards of early Yu-Gi-Oh, and just try to make things a little bit more playable and talk about what kind of game design philosophies could have been done to make these cards actually relevant. Because if you haven't played old school Yu-Gi-Oh, there's really only one good way to play old school Yu-Gi-Oh, and you are basically playing the same decks. But there's a lot of cool themes and archetypes, and I really want to give some of them some love so that way we can try to make them competitive compared to what they're used to or what is currently available for the set. If you like this content, please consider liking and subscribing, or just, watch my videos and don't do any of that. It just whatever you want to do is fine, but I am trying to continue off the series, and it's going to really depend on you guys, the viewers. So if you do like me, then I like you too. So let's get started though. Alright, so Blaze of Destruction is a structure deck that was released in May of 2005. During this time, Chaos was still kind of running rampant, and that's basically it. You couldn't really play anything else. With that said, this is probably one of my favorite times of Yu-Gi-Oh!, at least playing on the playground, because people did have diverse decks based on, did you get the Fire one? Did you get the Warriors? Did you get the Spellcasters? Well, not many people got the Fire one. It wasn't that great. And it's sad because it's actually pretty fun. In fact, I actually think the Fire type is one of the best structure decks as far as a playground setting, because you could actually have some pretty cool combos. Things like Baseball Kid, who power themselves up pretty well. Solar Flare Dragon to get yourself a little bit extra burn after already attacking with a 1500 beater, which is really nice. The fact that this does it on the end phase is pretty nice. Where the deck starts to fall flat is it doesn't really have too much of an endgame card, because this card, Infernal Flame Emperor, is pretty bad. This guy cannot be special summoned. You can tribute. When this card is tribute summoned, you can banish up to 5 fire monsters from your graveyard to destroy spells and traps on the field equal to the number banish activated. Cool. It's a heavy storm-ish on legs, MST on legs. Um, can't be special summoned. It has to be tribute summoned, and it's level 9, so you have to tribute summon at least 2. And yeah, like that's boring. Like there are other cards that can basically do stuff, and we're again kind of competing with like Chaos Emperor Dragon, who just banishes light and dark right out the bat. What I think, and also the destruction of spells and trap cards doesn't really fit the theme of the deck. We look at cards like Backfire that inflict 500 damage to your opponent's life points when a fire monster you control is destroyed. Cool. Let's look at again, Solar Flare Dragon, just burn damage. Inferno, burn damage. Even the Thestalos, who is technically the boss monster, discard a card and then burn the damage if it was a monster. So we have all this burn damage stuff, and then we have a boss that is a worse MST. Um, what are we doing? So that's what we're gonna have to fix. There's a lot of burn aspects in this, and I do feel like we have a pretty good way to make this card relevant for years to come against things like Chaos Emperor Dragon and Blackluster Soldier and other things that are currently kind of floating around in that meta. Now remember, we're trying to balance things in the essence of 2005. The boss monster of 2005 was Chaos Emperor Dragon, and being able to special summon that guy out with no issue against something where I have to tribute summon this big 9-cost meter. Like, I'm fine with tributing summoning things to kind of get this guy out, but I just don't feel like it is glory to that boss monster, the fires, that the fire deck really needs. We have a lot of burn, and I don't want this guy to be too powerful, but this is really going to be my big pitch for it. And we can kind of keep some things a little bit separate, but I kind of want to combine him with somebody like Thestalos in a way, where if this card is tribute summoned, discard 1 random card from your opponent's hand, then if it was a monster, inflict damage. That's a pretty strong effect for a one tribute cost. Like again, it's arguably just better. You play three of these versus just this big guy to destroy spells and traps. And also, this guy's gonna get bottomless anyways when he hits the field. So like it's not really that great. So how do we fix it? Let's take a look. But before that, let's take a look at some of the cool fire type cards that we'll never see play if we don't do something that kind of combine with them. I like Infernal a lot. By banishing one fire monster from your graveyard, this guy can be special summoned. If this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle and sends to the graveyard, burn for 1500 damage. That is a nasty card. Now, with Molten Destruction, he becomes a 1600 attacker, and he's going to hit over quite a lot of recruiters. So you can get some massive damage with this card right here off the bat. It's a really cool, unique effect. It is a special summon, which is pretty unique in that time, but it has to have that burning aspect. Backfire. If a face-up fire monster is destroyed, sent to the graveyard, inflict 500. That's, again, an extra burn damage. But two cards that I really like and we won't probably ever see is Gaia Soul, the Combustible Collective. Once per turn, tribute to up to two Pyro monsters. This card gains 1,000 attack for each. If this card attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing damage. It is pretty strong. And being able to get some piercing damage is really cool. But again, it is a tribute. You can tribute up to two Pyro monsters to do it. And then finally, Molten Zombie. I fully understand why this guy is not a zombie, and that this card is a 1600 or like he is a hard card to really get your special summon off, and you don't have any key ways to really do it. But God, that draw power for a fire deck would be so good. So we have a couple options, and I think what I really want to look back at is a very special fiery chicken from a previous set. All right, Sacred Phoenix of Nepithys. I kept this card the same in our series. It is a great, powerful card that just doesn't really get anything too special. But what this guy says, once per turn during your standby phase, after this card was destroyed by a card effect and sent to the graveyard, special summon this card from the graveyard. And if you do, destroy all spells and traps on the field. That's pretty good. I want to keep this the same, but I just want to be able to destroy, and I think that is where fire should come in. It should be a little bit of burn damage and destruction. So what if you have this card out already and you can, let's say, special summons the actual Infernal Flame Emperor and be able to pop your own Sacred Flame? I think that makes a very interesting combo. And it's, yeah, we have High King Garuthix way further up ahead, but I want to pitch one different thing instead of this guy. So I'm going to keep this guy a little different from the High King Garuthix or whatever his name is. But I think we can combo that, and let's make the deck. Let's make the card. All right, so here's my pitch. Infernal Flame Emperor. We're keeping him the same 7 stats, same level. Everything is fine. This card can only be special summoned by banishing 2 fire-type monsters from your graveyard. If you do, destroy all face-up fire monsters you control and inflict life point damage equal to 100 times the level of those monsters. So, we have the destruction elements to it. You're only really hitting your own cards with this, but you're going to be inflicting some life point damage to your opponent for hitting all your fire-type monsters on the field. So it is a big stat monster. You can do this after the battle phase as well to get that extra little burn if you need to. But more importantly, let's take a look back at some of these other cards that can be used to be improved on with this in the starter deck. And let's take a look at things like, hey, what about Foxfire? Where when this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard. No, it destroyed by battle. Why? That's not that great. Destroyed by card effect. When this card is destroyed, special summon this card from the graveyard. Something cool, really awesome for that. We can make something of this as well. Like once per turn, you can destroy up to 2 monsters, or pyro type monsters. This card gains 1,000 each. So if they are playing a mirror for some reason, and they're playing another pyro deck, when you destroy, you can just destroy their monsters and gain stats for this guy. That makes this guy pretty relevant and pretty powerful for the future, to be a big contender. This increases defense position, or I'm sorry, this does inflict piercing damage as well, and it's destroyed at the end turn. So like this card could be more relevant just by adding destroy to up to 2 pyro monsters, so it can be either side. So later on, when we see like the Lavavels and like weird things together, this could be an interesting tech card for the future. So it's something to heavily consider with that. But I think that just having destruction of that, we kind of will fit into themes with like the Fire King stuff down the road too. That is all about destroying your own monsters. So it may not be that amazing right now, but it does give us a cool boss monster that can be splashed in to any kind of pyro deck in the future, And so it is giving this card a lot more longevity in the game instead of it just being anything. So we're keeping the burn, and even the burning aspect isn't that much, but it is destroying stuff that is going to come back, and then it's bringing out a big beater afterwards. Or maybe you just don't have anything on the field, and then you just banish two things, and it's a 2700 beat stick. Maybe you don't get that burn effect, but at least now you have a massive attacker that you can just plop down on somebody. And if they are playing something like Chaos Emperor Dragon or a BLS, who are 3000, they can do the same thing. It's not like this is broken. In fact, this is obviously still worse than those two cards. So I don't think it's I think it's fixed as it is. I do not think it outcompetes against the meta of BLS and CED, but it is something that can be played in almost any fire deck in the future, and that was my goal for this guy. So with that, I would say that if we change some of the more destruction effects of Foxfire, make this card destroy, make Gaia Soul Combustible destroy, I think that right off the bat can fix this deck. And you know what? Maybe even if we had a recruiter that says when this card is destroyed, then Fires could have actually been really competitive against some of the overwhelmingly power of Chaos in this format. All right, let's talk about Fury from the Deep, released the same time in May of 2005. Again, a boss monster that is truly outclassed by CED, but honestly, it's a similar effect as it stands already. There are a few minor tweaks that we have to do, so let's take a look at the boss monster specifically and really play around with this guy and see what kind of unique things that he does and how we get this guy out. So first off, this card cannot be normal summoned or set. It must be special summoned. This card cannot be special summoned except by tributing one Leviathan Dragon Daedrus. And if you do, you can send Yumi, a Yumi you control to the graveyard, send all other cards in both players' hand and on the field to the graveyard except this card. So again, this is basically CED with a much more difficult summoning condition for a water deck who is already very difficult to play. And then you only get his effect if you have another card, whereas CEDs you just pay 1,000 life points. So it is a strong effect, but I think that it has to be a special summoning thing. This is a classic of what if I just had this card as a red border and it just sits in the extra deck? It could be fixed that way if we ever wanted to, but what else could we do to try and make this guy relevant? Well, let's look over here. Leviathan Dragon Daedalus. So this guy is a 7. So in theory, if you have Yumi on the field or Legendary Ocean, it's reducing the cost of all level monsters by 1. So it's only technically a 1 tribute if you're playing the deck properly and not your field cards are actually up. So that's not too bad. But this guy says that you can send one face-up Yumi you control to the field, destroy all other cards in the field. Well, wait, if you do that, then how do you get, then you're already getting rid of one of your Yumis, so Ocean Lord Neo Daedalus is gone, or doesn't get his effect, because you had to nuke the board with this guy. And also, if you're playing this guy, and you have Mobius in the exact same deck, just destroy up to 2 spell and trap cards in the field, that's knocking out 2 things. Like, yeah, this guy will be the last monster on the field, but at the same time, Mobius is doing the same thing relatively easier without us, like with only 1 summon anyways. So Daedalus sending a Yumi up on the field, I don't think is necessary for this card effect. So there's a few things we can kind of tweak with there. But before we do that, let's look at some of the other cards that are kind of more staples. Other Grizzly is just the Recruiter. Starfish is fine. Tribe Infecting Virus, phenomenal card. It doesn't fit the theme too much, but it's a great card. Feigner. This card can be not be normal summoned or set. This card can only be special summoned by removing 2 water monsters from your graveyard from play. When this card destroys an opponent's monster as a result of battle, your opponent skips their next draw phase. Why was this card not played more relevant? Well, it's because water cards are pretty bad. And 1400 is fine, but if you're playing the Legendary Ocean, he becomes a 16, which isn't that relevant unless you're beating over other recruiters. So in a format where we're mostly focused on like more on summon effects, we have things like Breaker that's 16 versus 16 after you pop in that. He is pretty good and he can be special summoned, but I'm actually going to keep him how he is. We're going to look at some of the other guys. Amphibious Burgle MK3, as long as Yumi's on the field, this card can attack your life points directly. That's pretty good. So, I mean, Yumi's on the field with Legendary Ocean, that's 1700 attack just to swing in direct. That is not bad whatsoever. And if you play things like Gravity Bind, then this guy can still swing in at 1700 attack each turn. He's, again, a pretty good, although niche card. Let's see, Mermaid Knight, level 4. Again, Yumi on the field can attack twice during the battle phase. You put in Gravity Bind, then again, it's a good niche card. I don't have to touch much with that. This in Unshaven Angler, we've always said that like there should be cards that count as 2 tribute summons, and this guy kind of fits that bill. Again, I don't need to change anything with this. So, Creeping a Doom Manta, which I always thought was a moon, not a Manta Ray. But when this card is normal summoned, no traps can be activated. Cool. Okay. Not an amazing card, but it's fine for a starter deck. So we look through this. The only really thing that we should look to try and switch around is this guy, because I think if we fix this, we can fix the starter deck a lot and make water types relatively playable. I still think water types are probably the weakest archetype or attribute of any of the types. But if we go with that big kind of destruction feel to it, or that more floodgate feel with the gravity binds, combining that with tornado wall, and having it really more of a stun focus, I think that we can definitely do something. So let's play out the ocean. So first things first, Daedalus. You can send one face-up Yumi you control, destroy all other cards in the field. No. Um, this card is really just going to say that if you control when this card is summoned, if you control a face-up Yumi, destroy all other cards on the field, um, except Yumi and Daedalus. Basically, we have to word it so that way it is just a nuke when it hits the field, and it is a dark hole on legs. I think something along those lines will keep this guy relevant for a while and is keeping up the Yumi. Or maybe we do say just destroy all other cards in the field, including the Yumi, just because maybe it does end up being a little too strong and with a one summon. But it has to be tribute summon. So maybe we say and make this into like the monarch of it all. When this card is tribute summoned, if you control a face-up Yumi, destroy all other cards on the field. And right off the bat, that puts in a lot of work against your opponent. And it is setting you up. It is setting up your board. They still have their hand at this point, so they can still play around certain things. And if they do have a trap to kind of hit the removal, then hey, this guy's no longer a threat. But at least it was a big board cleared for a tribute summon that you got off with playing this big guy in your hand and having your Yumi bonus. So I think that we can change something like that just easy enough where this card would become relevant for a long time afterwards. What I do have a problem with is Ocean Lord Nevias. So again, if we ever decided to make a card that can just be special summoned from the extra deck, this card you never want to play because you don't really want to draw it very often. And because if you have this card in your hand and you have the other Neo Daedalus, that just means that you had to hold on to 2 dead cards until you could actually play it with Yumi. That's why this card never really saw play. So this card cannot be normal summoned or set. This card cannot be special summoned except by tributing 1 Leviathan Dragon Daedalus. If we are not putting this card in an extra deck as a side kind of thing, then we need to make this where you can banish a Leviathan Dragon from your graveyard, which is the deep ocean in this kind of theme. Then special summon this card. From there, you can send 1 Yumi you control to the graveyard and send all other cards in both players' hands and on the field to the graveyard except this card. So then, after you meet that condition of being able to banish that Leviathan Dragon, then you can bring this guy out and special summon it and then nuke your opponent's hand. Now, there are obviously ways to cheese this out. Putting him in a graveyard, that dragon guy the Daedalus into the graveyard is probably pretty easy. It's probably easier to do than summoning him up, just because you can play things like Foolish Burial in the future. You can play things just to kind of dump him. You can play discard cards to dump him in the hand as well. And that's all fine. I think that it has that cost. So maybe if we add one extra cost to this, where while Yumi is on the field, you may banish a Dragon Lord Daedalus, whatever his name is, to special summon this card. So the end result would look like something like this. So Ocean Dragon Lord Neo Daedalus. The end result would end up being this card cannot be normal summoned or set. This card cannot be special summoned except by banishing 1 Leviathan Dragon Daedalus from the graveyard while you control Yumi. You can and then brackets, because again, breaking up card effects is super nice for cards. You can send Yumi you control to the graveyard to send all cards in both players' hands and on the field to the graveyard except this card. It keeps its theme. It keeps what this card is meant to do. It is a big scary beat stick. It is on the same power level, although still weaker than Chaos Emperor Dragon. So it is. But again, you have to play a specific card. You need to have a specific condition. But if you do, you meet those 2 conditions. And then you have to draw this guy as well. So you meet those two conditions, you can special summon this guy out, and water types have a very scary, threatening card that they can play. So I think this card is fixed, and in correlation, I don't think we have much else to fix in this deck. I think a lot of the water stuff is really cool, but they just really lack that big kill power in the early Yu-Gi-Oh! At least until Mermails come out, and then oh boy, we will have fun with those. And I think that's going to wrap us up this time, guys. Again, if you really like this content, please like, subscribe, let me know. I love doing this kind of stuff. I love game design, but I want to see if this is content that you guys want to see before I keep putting in a lot of effort into it. I took a long break from this, and I've kind of reinvigorated my love of the game. I've told you before that the series isn't dead. I just needed a break to make sure I can give it some love and care. So if you do want to see this kind of content again, please like and subscribe, share with your friends, do all the YouTube stuff. It means a lot to me, and it tells me that you guys are still interested in wanting to watch these. So take care. Peace out. Love you all. Mwah. Bye.